I'm wearing my lovely headset, so that's why I'm not going to have it on. But you can see this is my corner. I'm in our office, but I wanted to at least say hi so people would see I'm a real person and not a bot. Thank you so much for coming to my session, though. I have to give credit to my friend and also my boss, the executive director here of the department I work in. So my name is Meegan Willi. I'm the instructional technologist / designer for Grand Rapids Community College in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I will share a link to my presentation, but I don't have that yet. So I'll let the folks at Appalachian State know. And if you want to reach out and get in touch with me after this, though, here's my contact information. So I have my email address, and hopefully all of this will come up, but I just linked to. So I work at a community college. I've been here for 8 years, and I am the only instructional designer, so it's just me. Hold on here, I need to step back a second. So here's a link, so you can, if you're interested in kind of knowing, what it's like or where I'm from, that's a little bit of information. The actual department that I work in is called Distance Learning and Instructional Technologies. So I support faculty no matter what modality they teach in, be it fully online, a hybrid or a blended course, or face-to-face. The school that I work at, we use Blackboard, and every course automatically gets a shell. And there's a small requirement that every faculty member must post their syllabus in Blackboard, as well as their contact information. So every course does have a presence, and even some of our face-to-face courses have a pretty large presence. So we have been, since I started, trying to grow our online courses and online enrollment. So a good portion of my job is working with faculty who are developing online classes or hope to. But we have so many faculty who teach a mixture. And they might teach face-to-face, but they also teach online, or they might teach a hybrid. And in fact, it might not even be the same from semester to semester. So I do support a wide range of different people. Here is a link to my LinkedIn profile. And then if you wanted to follow me on Twitter. So before I go any further, and I don't have this set up fancy, but if you can open the chat and just let me know, I'm curious kind of what the roles are for some of the participants in here. So if you have a minute, let me know. Are you a faculty member? Are you an instructional designer? Are you a librarian? Or do you have some other role? Awesome, thank you so much. Yep. All right, so we have let's see here. I don't know, almost kind of half and half. So we have about 200 full-time faculty, and I don't have the latest number for adjuncts, but we probably have a pool of about 700. So depending on how many courses we have. So it's, there's a huge mix of different people. And I enjoy working with people from all different disciplines. It's really exciting. I learn a whole lot. So my executive director, Bill Knapp, this is actually the second place I've worked with him, and he's been here for 2 years, and he gave me this idea. So Marie Kondo, the KonMari system is kind of this buzz right now. So he's like, what if you did a presentation on Marie Kondoing your course? And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, that is a great idea. So I did, I I think I will be compiling some more information because I'm just having a good time with this, but I wanted to at least give him the kudos because it was his idea. And when I was searching around, I didn't find anything. You can kind of find resources on adapting her system to different things. This is the description I wrote for the course, though, and this is kind of what we're going to talk about today. So it is not as exciting as Marie Kondo's system and finding joy in everything because you might actually be teaching classes that you want to tidy up that you don't get a lot of joy out of. But, you know, that's a whole other story. I'm excited that I get to actually help faculty with designing their courses. So, you know, it may not be of interest to me at all, but designing the course and making it easy to navigate and creating a space where students will be successful, that actually does kind of get me excited. So I am basically going to talk about some different elements of instructional design and how you can kind of think of these in these terms, which I think are really resonating with people right now. So I have a little video that I'm not going to play, but if you actually go to Marie Kondo's website, so Marie Kondo is this smiling individual on my screen, and she created the KonMari system, which is a system for tidying up your home. And she has consultants, so you can actually hire someone to help organize your closet or your kitchen or different things. I got some of her books from the library, but I haven't actually been able to read them yet. I've read parts of them though, and what I did was kind of take out some of the key takeaways and then put them in this space that is going to make sense to everyone who's here, but also probably your colleagues or faculty you work with if you're in a support role like I am. So this breaks down what it is, what KonMari and the Marie Kondo system is into like 50 seconds. So if you have time later, take a look at that. So when I was looking around, and at the very end of this, there are some links that I'll share, which will help you. But what I did was I found from a number of different places what, if you're going to boil down everything that she says, boil it down to kind of those key things, well, how can we relate that then to instructional design and designing online courses? But you could also use this for hybrid courses or even face-to-face courses. But I particularly wanted to talk about the technology, which it's hard to separate these days, the technology from teaching, at least at my institution. I talk to faculty who teach more in the summer, so they use technology differently, and they might even teach their courses differently than they do in the fall and the winter, because maybe during the fall and the winter semesters, they actually teach more face-to-face courses. So before I get into these 5 different takeaways, let me know, have you read her book? Or are you at least familiar with Marie Kondo? Feel free, put it in the chat. I'm not super familiar with her. There are courses. It's fascinating because if you start to look around, You can do this yourself. So you can organize your house, your life, your closet. She has tips and different things that will help you. And you can do that yourself if you have time, but you can also hire someone to help you. And looking through some of the different resources, she also does have things to suggest if you're just not ready to tackle a whole thing. So when I was thinking about tidying up your course, I was imagining that someone would be looking at a whole course. Just like if you were doing the Marie Kondo system, you would tackle your whole, it's one thing that you would tackle. So your whole closet or your whole kitchen. But if you don't have time, I think that you can apply it to smaller pieces, which she also has suggestions for. So if you really would like to organize your bedroom, but that's too big of a task, you could start with just organizing your closet or just organizing so there are some different techniques there. There is a series. So, and this could be, I think this is something that might grow and I could see it adapted in different ways. But as you look through, there are so many instructional design systems and new ones come out and they have new names. And often there is some new research, but sometimes when you boil everything down, those same concepts seem to always be relevant. So if I think of like the ADDIE system, where you're analyzing and then you're going to design and develop, you'll implement it, and then you'll evaluate. So instructional design is this process. And as part of the process, you're hoping that, it doesn't stop, but faculty will either on their own or with help from you or even your department, depending on how your school is structured, they will kind of refine things and make the course better, which when technology like Blackboard or the other learning management systems are part of the equation as technology advances, and if your school adopts different technology, it's important to look at your course. And aside from the technology, depending on what you teach in, certain disciplines, you have to make sure that you have the latest information. In computer science, software updates pretty rapidly, and you might have to teach students the latest version of the Adobe products this year. So there are some natural points where it might make sense for someone to take a look at their course and then tidy it up. So her advice is to tidy all at once. Actually commit yourself to tidying. So I think when we're talking about online course design, I would focus on a course. Part of it is because, and we'll get down to this in one of the other takeaways, is that it's really hard to tidy by location. If you're talking about cleaning your house or organizing your house, you might have things in your library which are really not supposed to be in that room. Or you might have things in your kitchen which really don't belong there. So Marie recommends actually tidying by category. And as I was thinking about that, trying to prepare for this session, it really got me thinking, and we've had a renewed interest on our campus in Quality Matters. How many of you are familiar with Quality Matters or have even adopted it at your school? So we have a small group of faculty who've taken a number of trainings. I've actually taken Quality Matters now. This is the third school I've worked in, the third higher education institution, and I think I've taken it at almost every place. But because it had been a while, I actually took this May the Applying the Quality Matters rubric online. And then, after a small breather, I took the peer review course. So we had kind of a rocky attempt at adopting Quality Matters a few years ago. So in the last couple years, we've had people retire, we've had new people hired, and then we've had people in different pockets of the college who really want to improve quality in their online course or their colleagues' online courses. Our faculty have a new performance evaluation system that I think they've had now for like maybe 4 or 5 years. But part of that changed the way evaluations and observations happen. And faculty now have to have courses evaluated every so often, and depending on your role and your level, how often varies. I think our adjuncts are observed maybe once a year, even if they only teach online. So what has started to happen is there are faculty, and observations are typically done by your peers. If you're a full-time faculty member, you get to say, oh, this year I would like this course observed, and then you reach out to someone who's taken observation training. And adjuncts, they might have someone in their department that's assigned to do that. But it's a very collegial process, and we're actually working on a way to make the online observations a little bit better because it's so tricky. We're very used to observing face-to-face classes where someone comes into your class and they're going to observe that one moment. So that 2-hour class once during the semester. It's really hard to kind of take that and apply it to the online classroom. So we have a group of faculty who are working on that right now. Because the same group they're actually faculty who have, as part of their role, they have observed some of their colleagues' classes and they go, wow, we have a lot of sections of this particular English class or this particular business class. And it's fascinating just how different all of these sections are. And everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, but it would be nice if we had a way to at least help faculty, give them the tools to create an online space where their students would be successful. So that kind of got things started a little over a year ago. And I'm very excited to say that this week, Friday, we have a faculty member who is going to be doing an official Applying the Quality Matters rubric training on campus. And we have 20 people interested. And this is the week before we come back. When do classes start for everyone? At GRCC, we start on Monday, August 27th. And actually today, if you've taught in the summer, either all summer or the second half, today is final exam day. And I think grades are due by noon tomorrow. So this is a tricky time because if you've taught all summer, or if you're an adjunct and you have another job, or, there are so many variables these days. But this week is kind of like your last chance for a vacation. Next week, Thursday, is our big welcome back day, and I enjoy it. In the morning, everyone's going to come back. So all faculty and staff who, work during the day, full-time faculty, and then the normal academic staff, everyone gets to have breakfast, and our president will talk to us, and then faculty have school meetings, department meetings, and later in the evening there's something smaller for adjuncts. Friday is faculty prep day. This is next week. So Thursday, the 22nd, is welcome back day, and Friday, the 23rd, is prep day. So that's why we are like, we're on that fast train right now going toward the fall semester. So it's always very tricky to offer something because either people are gone, they might be taking their own kids to college, or I was so shocked. I have my oldest daughter is going to be starting kindergarten, and she starts next week, Tuesday. Well, I saw a lot of people sharing pictures yesterday of their kids starting school. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh, like we didn't get summer weather until the first week of July in Michigan. So I'm still kind of in that summer zone. I'm not really ready for everything to come back and all the people, even though I miss the buzz of having faculty and students here. So I'm very excited about that training. I'm going to give you just a little bit of information about Quality Matters, because when I get to my third point here, I think it ties in really well. So the first takeaway from Marie Kondo was to commit yourself to tidying an entire course. And part of that is because if you go into your course, or if the person that you're working with, so if a faculty member who's been teaching, business writing for 10 years goes into their course and wants to start figuring out what to keep and what to update and what to remove, that could get overwhelming very quickly. And it's hard to think about what you would keep and what you might need to update or remove if you're just trying to look at one small piece of a course. This will make sense when we talk about alignment and Quality Matters. So the first thing to do is just to commit to it. So, and I've talked to a couple people very recently. We're still trying to we have a number of online courses, but there are some key courses we would love to get online. One of them is a foreign language course. And the person I was talking to, she said all of a sudden she's very excited because this seems very real and possible. We piloted 2 tools last summer, or last school year, and then we officially adopted this year. We have a web conferencing tool, which we've never had one, not one that was supported by the campus. And we have a new tool for managing video. Does everyone have at their school, we're adopting Zoom. Do you have either Zoom or Collaborate or a tool for web conferencing? For like our language classes in particular, that's been a struggle not to have something like that. So she's very excited, and she was telling me she would love to put one of an upper level Spanish classes online. And she said, but it would take so much work. And I said, it will. I said, but, there's a way that we could plan out a timeline and a project. And if you bring in the right people and you start this and do it in a logical fashion, you're going to have to do some of these things anyway. So for instance, in our school, if you're going to put a course online for the first time, you need to make sure that the curriculum document is going to work if you're teaching it online. And even if you're not, our curriculum is up for review every 4 or 5 years. So she was a little overwhelmed because she's already starting with the fall, but I said, just come back and talk to me in in a month or so after classes start, and we will lay out this process. I said, that's actually my job. And I said, starting with the curriculum document, I said, that's above me. Like, because you're thinking about course curriculum and programming for programs. I said, but I know exactly who to talk to for that. So the second big takeaway is visualizing your ideal course. This is a fun, in the Marie Kondo system, she says, visualize what do you want your room to be? What do you want your kitchen to look like? So if you have committed to organizing your kitchen, then you have to decide what you want it to look like. So if we apply this same thinking to designing and developing online courses, first commit to a class. So for instance, I could use as an example this Spanish class. Okay, I'm going to commit to, our Spanish 231. And then decide what exactly do you want that course to look like. I'm very fortunate that in my role, I get to work with so many different faculty. And one of them this summer is working on putting Photography 101 online. And he's met with me a couple times, and he told me exactly what he does face to face. And he told me exactly what he would like to be able to do online. And that's what you need to do. So with this takeaway, and it might be brainstorming or talking through the process with a colleague or even your department. In some of the departments here on campus, there are like course coordinators or people who lead a course. You can, if that team needs some help as an instructional designer, you could actually help them through the process of thinking, well, okay, either this is the first time you're going to put this class online, or maybe it's time for this class to be updated. Well, instead of thinking about what's there right now and looking at how to change it, why don't we first step back and talk about what do students need to be able to do at the end of the course? This ties very closely with the third big takeaway. Now, it's way more fun in Marie Kondo, because when you're tidying up, you get to actually determine if something sparks joy. Unfortunately, I could not find a way to keep it that exciting. So instead, we're going to determine if an item is in alignment, which I know sounds so much drier. This is where Quality Matters comes in, though. So I took this. There's a link at the end. I wanted a little video. There wasn't one, not one that was short, but anyone who is familiar with Quality Matters or who has taken a training, at least if you've taken at minimum the Applying the Quality Matters rubric, they introduce the concept of alignment. Alignment refers to a connection between those critical course components to make sure that students will achieve the learning outcomes. So what you're doing in step 2 with visualizing what students need to do or determining, that's actually talking about those course, we call ours course outcomes. And in Quality Matters, learning objectives are the first things you have to create, but there's this relationship that kind of, it can go 2 ways, and it actually connects between assessments, activities, resources, and technology. All of that. And it's really hard to evaluate. It's been a little while, but I've actually taken some Quality Matters trainings on just alignment. And when I was preparing for this on the Quality Matters website, there are some really amazing presentations that are there from past Quality Matters conferences that talk about this concept. It's one of those things where to an instructional designer or someone who's just spent a lot of time designing courses, it probably makes a lot of sense. But if that's not your expertise, and a lot of our faculty are hired like from the field that they work in, because we're at a community college, so they know, mechanics, car mechanics, transmissions inside and out. But when you start throwing things like assessments and learning outcomes and all of this stuff and alignment, and you start throwing out these words, it starts to get confusing. And that's where you can start to kind of lose people. Hopefully, I'm still trying to master a way to do this, but hopefully you can connect with faculty, or if you're the faculty member yourself, hopefully you can figure out what these components are, because you see how closely they're interrelated, particularly when you're designing fully online courses. So, and then you have the 5 areas, and there are certain, in Quality Matters, there are 8 main standards, and then there are these substandard or standards underneath those that are more detailed. And there are specific standards and substandards that have this alignment component, and not everything does. So while it's critical, and if you're familiar with Quality Matters and you're actually having an official review, your course cannot be Quality Matters certified unless all of the standards related to alignment are met. Because if those aren't met, the rest of your class could be amazing, but you're missing those key foundation pieces. And this is hard. At my school, we have a hard time getting people in at one time to learn about something as kind of dry as alignment. But anytime we have a new technology, people rush in for training. So talking about all these things and talking about the alignment can really be hard for someone who would love to just jump right into Blackboard and just start building. Or, okay, all right, if I just sit down and I could clean up a couple folders tonight, no problem. I'll go in, I'll just tidy that stuff up. Well, you want to make sure that if someone has an hour or two to actually sit down and focus on revising or updating their course, let's use that time on revising the right things. because if you don't have alignment between your objectives and the other parts of your course, you can spend all the time you want making it look nice, making sure that, it's the colors that you want and everything matches, and you're still going to have students who are in your course who are just lost. And if they get lost, then they're going to either reach out to you or they're going to reach out to their classmates, and then you're just going to have a group of lost students. Where if you can focus your energy and look at something like the outcomes for the course, once you have the outcomes updated and you know exactly what the course outcomes are, then you start connecting them to these other components. So the assessment, the activity. For resources and materials, we usually refer to that as the course content, the weekly content, and then the technology. And technology always seems to come last, which can be hard sometimes depending on who you're working with. So this is the concept of alignment. And even if you don't have Quality Matters on your campus, you can access the basic information. You don't need a special subscription for that. But it's helpful, and I'm very excited to see how our session goes this Friday, because we'll have, we could have 30 people on campus who are at least exposed to that first training. And once you understand the standards and what research and what people at other institutions are doing, sometimes that really speaks. It speaks to people. So if you can't get through with your own stories or your own experience, sometimes it's helpful to say, well, the standards that Quality Matters uses are researched and they update them. And it's an independent group. It started as a grant, a FLCon grant. So the other real nice thing about Quality Matters is that people know what it means, because it's bigger than just your school. We have our own rubric right now. We call it our course readiness rubric, which we're going to be updating because our standards are the Quality Matters standards, but we haven't started using them. There was a lot of hesitation with that whole idea of points and evaluating someone. And all I would like as an instructional designer is a rubric where I can just say it's either there or it's not. I like that, no gray area. It's there or it's not. To me, the points, I can see their value, but when I review courses, our committee's reviewing them before they're ever taught. And so you don't have the time or the knowledge to actually necessarily have a course that is going to be really high quality, because sometimes you need to try that course online and you need to see what works, and you need to decide where you should focus more energy to make it better for next time. So I've started encouraging faculty that I work with who are developing new courses. I tell them, we need a complete course to review. It doesn't have to have all of the bells and whistles, but if you are going to teach that course tomorrow, it needs to have everything there. So if it was a vehicle, you would need all of the pieces. There's no way you could take off with your class if you were missing brakes. You could probably get by without tinted windows, but those critical components would be tricky. So alignment is critical. And then these different course components, I think, fall into this category thing. So Marie Kondo's system, she recommends that you tidy things by category, not by location. So instead of just going into the kitchen and going, I need to clean up the kitchen, you might say, I want to tidy up my wardrobe. Well, you might have pieces of your wardrobe scattered throughout the house. That's why her system goes by category. So the categories that I would look at during the instructional design process are the learning outcomes or the learning objectives, the assessments, the activities, the material, and the technology. And then lastly, Marie recommends tidying up in order. So you kind of have to get everything out first. So if you're thinking about tidying up your wardrobe or your closet, well, you've got to get all your clothes. Get all of those out and together and start to organize them. With an online class, start with those learning objectives or those learning outcomes, depending on the terminology at your institution. So, what do students need to be able to do at the end of the course? And then you can use backwards design and you can tidy your class in order. Once you know what they need to know at the end, you can plan out how to get there. And so there are different ways to approach this, and it might vary depend on the class or who I was working with, but I would first look at the assessments. The final assessment, and then break then if you have either a midterm or unit assessments, determine what those are. Because if you know what you're going to be assessing students on, then you can develop activities and you can create or provide students with the resources and material that will help them gain the knowledge, gain the learning, so they'll be successful in that assessment. We have a required course for all faculty to take before they teach online or before they design an online class. At Grand Rapids Community College, it's called the OHCC. When we talk about designing a week of content, we break it down into specific things. We say you should have an introduction. When students go into a folder, there should be some information at the very beginning, which is going to tell them what to do. Because you're not going to be there when every student goes into that folder. And it might be very clear to you as the subject matter expert, as the person who's taught this class for years, it might be crystal clear what all of that information means and how you should complete it, but that might not be the case for all of your students. So first you should have an introduction. And then decide, okay, here's my introduction. These are the outcomes for the week. These are the objectives. Then you can decide, okay, if a student is going to need to know how to do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to have them read this chapter. And I might also have them look through this article or this document. So you can actually start putting the pieces together that will step students towards the assessment. Then, research shows, and particularly with the students we have at our school, but it's always a good idea to let students practice something before you actually assess them on it. So that's this activities and interactions. That might be something that they're going to do independently. If you have adopted a text with student materials online, that could be having students do, you know, flashcards. Maybe they're creating them. Maybe they're going to do a crossword puzzle. Maybe it's a discussion post, but give students the opportunity to actually work with the information and get some feedback, either immediately, if it's something like a quiz or a practice test, but so that before they get to that assessment, either that week or at the end of the unit, they will already know if they know it. Okay? So give them some activities that will give them feedback so that if they take a pretest and they discover that they clearly don't know how to multiply fractions, then they can either find that information in the book or you can help direct them to that. So that's where these resources and materials, all of that content comes into play. Once it's time for the assessment, have students take either the test or write the paper or whatever is going to assess the particular outcome or objective, and then they can move on. Everyone can move on to the next week. And in a lot of courses, not all, but in many courses, what someone learns in week 1, they need to know for week 2. So this is why it's really hard to sit down and just tidy up your course in a couple hours. Because if you don't look at things by category, so if you don't make sure your learning outcomes are right, and then look at the different pieces to see if you've even provided the resources, it's really hard to say with certainty that, yes, I know I've given the right information and students will be able to hit, these marks, and that at the end of the class, they'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. So that's what tidy in order means. Here are a few links. So this will take you to the text right here and a little bit more. So this is from Bemidji State University. This is a KonMari guide and checklist. So this is going to be not related to online course development, but if you're interested and you want to kind of see how I might have come up with these ideas, I have these links here, and I have others that I will add to this. But I know we're getting close to the end here. Are there any questions that anyone has that I could shed some light on or answer? Feel free to type those into the chat. I know I'm one of the afternoon sessions, and it also has been a long day. So please feel free, if something comes to mind and you would like to, ask a question or get some feedback, please feel free to reach out to me. Let me go back to my contact information. send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I would be happy to answer your question. Otherwise, I think we're done a little bit early. Are you there, Jeff? Have you noticed anything that I may have missed?
I haven't noticed anything now.
Okay. Well, I will hang out in the room for a few more minutes if anybody has any questions, but otherwise, have a great rest of the afternoon. So Vicky's asking if we're all using Ultra or preparing to move. Are you talking about Blackboard Ultra or Collaborate Ultra? I'm curious in knowing the answer to this question as well. At GRCC, and it's really interesting that you ask that, but Blackboard is the only course management system, learning management system that they've ever used here. And we're actually on Learn. We are on Blackboard Learn, and we're self-hosted. After learning a lot of information at Blackboard World this year, I would really like to help my campus move toward getting to Ultra, so that we can take advantage of some of the features, because I don't think we're going to be, Learn is not, it's not going to be around forever. Are there any other, is anyone in the room that uses Canvas or Moodle? I worked for 2 places that had WebCT. And then one of my roles was to help with the transition from WebCT to Blackboard. And actually that school is now transitioning to Canvas. But we've had so many other transitions here that when it comes up in a serious light, usually it's not the time. So for instance, students have always been on, not always, but for a long time have been on Google for Gmail at our college. And it was just this May that we flipped the switch. There's no more GroupWise, and now all of our faculty and staff have the full Google Suite, which is really exciting. But it's, that's a big move. Vicki, what school are you at? Are you at App State? Do you have a Blackboard MVP? I'm an MVP. They're actually system admins, instructional designers, people who work at institutions with Blackboard, but they're really active in the community. If you have one, they'll probably know kind of what's going on, but because we had lunch, so, and we're not even on SAS. I would love to just get to manage hosting. SAS would be wonderful, but at one point we were too cutting edge, so we've really had to slow down, but we have slowed down to the point now that we are we're like being pulled behind the boat. And I think the rope is like starting to fray. And if we don't start speeding up just a little bit, we're going to get left way behind. But you at EKU, at least with SAS, you have access to some things that we don't. So, but feel free to reach out. I met a lot of very nice people from different schools this July who are all, I learned, I'm in the Michigan Blackboard Users Group. We have that in Michigan, and I think I've been active in it since I was at my last institution, but there are user groups across the world for Blackboard. I think they have user groups for different, for Canvas and the other things too, but I discovered, someone else pointed it out, but we had a meeting for everyone at the conference from my bug, and a lot of us are self-hosted. So we're on Learn because Ultra is not really, you can't even self-host Ultra. And there was an observation someone made that people in Michigan just, they want to control their stuff and their server and letting go, and maybe there could be some trust issues there. But the world is moving very quickly. And I think sometimes it'd be easier if there was something that you could adopt as a service, maybe, choosing something that is a tool that is so vital for success, that would be a good choice. So, but everybody has to travel that path on their own with what's going to work kind of the best for their school, because I know that every school is very different. So, and actually, even though we have a lot of Blackboard tools, we've adopted Zoom as our web conferencing tool. We did not adopt Blackboard Collaborate, but we did look at both of those. Okay, well, we are nearing 3:15, so I am going to sign off. Jeff, thank you so much for co-piloting and making sure all of the technology ran well, and I hope everyone else has a great rest of their evening.
You're welcome.